During the month of August, Calvary Kids is talking about wisdom. Wisdom is described in the Bible as being more valuable than gold, more precious than diamonds, and a blessing to all who find it. So this month, we're encouraging our kids to dig deep to find what matters most. Wisdom is so much more than just being smart. It's a combination of knowledge and action. So we've defined wisdom as finding out what you should do and doing it. In today's culture, there's so many options of how to think, how to live, how to believe, and with so many options, we want to make sure our kids know how to make the wise choice. So we've dedicated all of August to teaching our kids how to ask, how to seek, how to dig deep so that they too can enjoy the many treasures of wisdom. This week, we head to 1 Kings chapter 3, where it's time for Solomon to become king. When Solomon became king, God gave him the option to have anything he wanted to help him rule the kingdom. And instead of asking for wealth or power, Solomon asked for wisdom. And quickly, that wisdom was put to the test. Solomon had to find a solution to a very difficult problem between two women. And his solution seemed barbaric at first. But after it was all said and done, everyone was in awe at the wisdom Solomon was walking in. God gave Solomon the wisdom he needed to solve the problem. And through this story, we hope our kids see that God can give them the wisdom that they need when they need it. The bottom line for this week is trust God to give you wisdom. Wisdom, it's not inherited, it's not automatic. If we want wisdom, we have to ask, seek, dig deep, just like Solomon did. All right, now for the small group activities. The first activity is a Bible story review. No supplies are needed, and it's called Solomon May I. And this is what you're gonna do. First thing is you're gonna break your group up into pairs. Now you lead this as the leader, just that way no one's left alone, no one's fighting over who's with who. Just break them up into pairs, but make sure that you remember which person is with which person. And so what you'll do is you'll have the pairs line up on the opposite side of the room facing each other. So they'll be lining up along the wall facing each other. And I suggest make sure the partners are in the same order on either side of the wall. That way you can understand and see who's with who. Because this is what you're going to do. As Solomon, you are going to stand and you're going to ask some true-false statements from the group. And if these true-false statements are in the binder. And if you see a set of a pair of kids raising their hand, and they're partners. If both partners are raising their hands, you call on them. And if they get it right, they can ask you, "Can we take so many steps towards each other?" They get to ask however many they want. If it's a ridiculous amount, you can say no, but you can take this many steps. But if it's 1 or 2 steps, you can say yes. And the whole goal is to come together in the middle. Whoever comes together first is the winner. But I would suggest continuing this activity all the way through until you've asked all the true-false statements. And if you get through them all and no one's won yet, you can begin asking them, what was your favorite part of the story? Or what did you find most interesting about this story? And then if both pairs are raising their hands, you can call on them. Now, this is a Bible story review, so it's an opportunity for us to retell the story, to reteach it a little bit, to correct some misunderstandings from the story if there are any. If kids answer incorrectly, then they missed a part of the story, so it's our opportunity to remind them of the truth of the story. And as you wrap up this activity, just remind them of the bottom line that we can trust God to give us wisdom. Our next activity is called Memory Verse Hula, and of course, it's our memory verse activity. So with any memory verse activity, spend a couple minutes talking about the value of God's Word, talking about how they're going to find the verse that they're looking for. And it's a great verse, James chapter 1, verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. What an amazing verse that our kids get to learn this month. So I want you as a leader to be excited about this verse, because your excitement is contagious. If you're excited about it, our kids will be excited about it. And this is what you're going to do for the hula hoop memory verse activity. You're going to have a couple hula hoops. You're going to have some pool noodle pieces that are being cut in about 6-inch pieces. And on those pool noodle pieces will be parts of the memory verse. And so you'll break your group up into teams of 3 to 4. So you might have 3 teams, you might have 2 teams, and each team will have a bucket, and inside that bucket will be the pool noodles with the memory verses attached to it, and each team will get their own hula hoop. Set the buckets on one side of the room, line the teams up on the other side of the room, and then when you say go, they may run to their bucket one at a time, grab a pool noodle piece, and bring it back, and the next person can go. And as they're going, the rest of the team is putting the pool noodle pieces onto the hula hoop itself. And so after all the pool noodle pieces are retrieved, they can then put the pool noodle pieces around the hula hoop in the right order. And they can use a Bible to do this, so it's very important that they understand how to look up the verse, and so that they can use, it's an open book activity. And so if they can find James chapter 1 verse 5, they can use it to help them put it in order. And so that's the activity. First team to get it in order, they choose one person from their team to put the hula hoop over them and try to hula hoop it like you're supposed to. And then as they're doing that, the rest of the team says the verse out loud together. After everybody's had fun playing this activity, you can wrap this up by simply asking some simple questions about the verse. Kind of dig deep into the meaning of the verse. Ask the kids questions like, what circumstances would we need wisdom? Or how have you used wisdom in your life? There's some thoughts and ideas in the binder. I suggest you look at those, read through that in the what you say part. But just simply start talking about the verse and ask them questions to help them deepen their understanding of wisdom and how generous God is willing to give it to us. Our final activity is pray and dismiss, and this is a super practical and simple thing for us to do, but it's going to make a big difference. We're going to ask God for wisdom. You're going to give each kid a piece of paper or an index card and have them write down 2 areas that they need wisdom in. And if kids are having a hard time, ask some leading questions. There's some ideas on how to lead them in your binder. But then ultimately, we're going to take those 2 things and we're going to ask God for wisdom in those 2 areas. And the thing is, everybody has different areas where we need wisdom in. And so this is our chance to let them personalize their wisdom needs. And then as a leader, you're going to encourage them to ask God for wisdom for those 2 things all week long. And then you as a leader close in prayer, asking God for wisdom on their behalf for those 2 things. Have them take these cards home and pray over them each day. Well, that wraps it up, guys. Thank you so much for all that you do. You guys are walking in wisdom, and you guys are showing our kids how they too can walk in wisdom. I want to remind you, get excited about James chapter 1, verse 5. God gives generously to all without finding fault when we ask Him for wisdom. When we get excited, our kids get excited. And so I'm looking forward to this Sunday. See you there.